Hello and welcome to another edition of Overcoming Illness. I am Paula Denoncourt, your host, founder, and CEO of Enrich Your Health. I'm a holistic health coach. I help my clients stop living a life of pain and suffering through simple diet and lifestyle tips, and I do mean simple. I myself suffered from multiple food allergies, and one of the things that was missing was recipes. So I try to make it very simple for my clients so that they can just reduce the pain in their body and some of the symptoms that they're having from things like food allergies, food sensitivities, and even autoimmune issues. So I do have some digital ebooks and recipe books on my website. You can go to enrichyourhealth.com, ENRICHURHEALTH.com if you're listening. And you can go, if you go to the store and it's blank, please, I apologize, it's under construction. Go to the second store, they're all there. And I have free gifts there. I have a reversing illness ebook. And I also have a 6-day immunity meal plan guide. And I highly encourage you to get both. Right now, the entire world is getting sick. They're getting sinus infection type issues. They're getting really bad colds and like a touch of the flu. I don't even know. Some kind of viral issue going on. So with that, full disclosure here, nothing said today is medical advice meant to treat, heal, cure, or mitigate any illness at all. Full disclosure. Please seek your doctor's advice. So if you haven't seen the show before, go back and watch some of the replays. I've had some amazing guests that they've overcome things like cancer, autoimmune issues, mold toxicity, trying to think, Lyme disease issues, diabetes, you name it. We've had amazing guests, even people that are deaf. And I have an announcement. I just came out with a new book. I'm so excited. It is called Activate Your Faith, Witness Generational Turnaround. It is an anthology, so it's written with 7 people. So there's 7 of us. And this book is amazing. If you haven't seen my last broadcast, we talked about the book a little bit in a sneak preview. But just to give you another preview, if you haven't seen the show, I talk about the people in the book talk about their stroke survivors, their kidney disease survivor, airplane crash survivor. So just amazing, amazing stories. They're overcomers, really gives people hope. So with Christmas coming around the corner, if you do celebrate Christmas, it would make a great gift. So it is on ebook style and paperback now. So you could wrap that up and give somebody hope. I've talked about this a lot in the past, and we're going to talk about it again tonight with my guest. Holidays can be really rough for people that are ill. They don't want to be around a lot of different people. They don't, they may want to be by themselves. So instead of watching crazy movies, give them a beautiful book to read and just give them some hope over the holidays. So without further ado, I do want to mention I do need you. I need more guests. We are booking for more guests. So if you're overcoming an illness, know somebody's going through an illness, maybe you're even a doctor, practitioner, could even be an apostle or a pastor, whatever. We need your stories. People need hope. You'll see it this time of year. A lot of people get ill, and even if they get this virus that's going around and they already were ill, oh my goodness, they're going to be like down for the count. So without further ado, I want to introduce my guest tonight. I'm really excited to have her. She had us on her show the other night. And I'll let you talk about that show later. But that was to advertise our book. So please, you can get our book on Amazon. I forgot to mention that part. And you can just go, it's Activate Your Faith, Witness Generational Turnaround. You'll see the book, ebook style, or you can get it on Kindle, or like I said, paperback style. So let me introduce Shawan. Shawan Jones is a native of Richmond, Virginia. She's a mother to 4 children. She too is an author, and I'm excited to get her book. Graphic designer and multi-business owner. She spends a lot of her time with her family, coaching and helping others, traveling and being around nature. She loves journaling her ideas. She loves to write and is creative forms of visual art. Me too. In fact, I wish I could do more. She enjoys finding innovative ways to express her inner creativity and style. Her mission is to break the back of poverty over her family and those connected to her by creating generational wealth. Well, I'm right on board with you. She wants to contribute self-awareness and knowledge needed towards individual self-sufficiency and for people to discover their divine purpose. She currently resides in Houston, Texas, with 3 of her children. So welcome, Shawan. Thank you for being here tonight.
Oh, this is such an honor. This is such an honor. So I'm so thankful to be here.
Well, we're thankful to have you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your story and just sharing with the viewers, some of your tips for getting through, this time of year. So let me go with the question. So tell us, what are some of the challenges you faced on your health journey? Well, first, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and then we'll go into questions. I apologize.
Sure, no problem. Well, again, my name is Shawan Jones. I was born and practically raised in Richmond, Virginia, but I've lived in so many different places. Um, but I also grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts as well.
Okay.
Even in my book, I chronicle living in both areas and just some of the traumatic experiences that I've had growing up as a child and how that affected my adulthood. And what I have found in recent years is a lot of the unresolved pain, resentment, unforgiveness that I was carrying. I think a lot of that prompted to the food choices and health situations that I've endured. All of that, it builds up toxicity in the body,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm kind of like in the position that I'm in now. So I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis in 2017. At the time, I didn't realize I had lupus and rheumatoid, because I have what's also considered scarring alopecia. So it's sort of like a variation of discoid lupus, and it affects my scalp. So my scalp was completely covered in scars. I had no hair, lost all my hair, and it was completely covered in scars. But I really didn't even attribute the two, to any type of autoimmune issue. So I never really questioned it. I just went with the rheumatoid arthritis because I had pain throughout my entire body. During that time, I've had periods where I could say that I've been in remission. And then there are periods where I have complete flare-ups. And during those flare-ups, it can be very difficult. Some days are much more challenging than others. The little things that we take for granted is difficult for someone with rheumatoid. And the thing of it is, it's different when you're in society and you have this type of disorder, because you look perfectly fine. Like, you don't look like anything is physically wrong with you. It's more internal. So when you're telling people you really can't move, like you need help to get up or you need help to open things, I kind of had some funny looks at first. But now people are beginning to, understand more, hey, this is another issue. So I'm thankful that I have the support of my family during this time. But then, in later years, by 2021, I was diagnosed with a rare cancer that I'd never heard of before, called nasopharyngeal carcinoma. And I actually had a tumor in my right nasal passage that went into my lymph nodes in my neck. So it prompted me to go from stage 3 to stage 4.
Oh my goodness.
And honestly, I think that is what really kind of changed the game for me. It allowed me, I feel like God really put me in a position where like my back was against the wall, and it made me reflect on everything. And
Mhm.
you know how sometimes you'll hear people say, oh, well, you know, on the onset of death, you see your whole life flash before your eyes. That was kind of like what it was. I saw, you know, my kids graduating high school. I saw, you know, my kids getting married, my daughter having a child. You know, I saw all of these things, but then I also thought, well, I haven't done everything to prepare them for these moments.
Right.
What's going to happen if I leave? You know,
Oh,
so the thoughts of, you know, the morbid thoughts kind of took over. But, you know, it was almost like I said, God kind of kicked in, like a light bulb came on.
yeah.
And, you know, I cried and cried and cried for like the first 2 days when I was told. And then it was like, no, Shawan, you got to fight. Like, this is going to be a battle. And,
Mm,
um, you know, you've got plenty of people in your army of prayer warriors, and we're going to get through this. And
yes.
that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what
Uh,
happened. So, you know, even during that journey with the treatments and things of that nature, you know, they were told, oh, Miss Jones, you're going to have the most aggressive treatment. You know, it's going to cause these issues and this and this. And I'm like, okay. And I go through the treatment and I have no problems. And they're like, well, wait a minute. This is the worst. This is like this is, you know, we've seen that this causes the worst damage in people and da 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 da. And you've gone through everything with a smile. And I'm like, yeah, it's definitely got, you know. So um, by August of 2021, I was told that the tumor was gone, that the cancer was gone out of my body.
mm,
Um, but they still wanted me to continue with the radiation treatments. Now, with the radiation treatments, that is challenging in itself, especially because my tumor was on my face. So all of that radiation was coming directly to my face every day. So it caused really bad sore throats. It got to the point where I could barely swallow. I really couldn't eat at all. The weight started coming off. I started off at like 245 pounds. By the time the time I stopped the treatments, and I'll get to that, I was 150 pounds
wow.
in less than 6 months.
Mm,
So it was a drastic change, I guess you could say. And like I said, I had 35 treatments. I only did 17. By the time
oh,
I
wow.
got by the time I got to 17, I was like, I'm not doing anymore. And they were like, well, Miss Jones, like, this isn't the best thing. Like, you know, this isn't a very aggressive cancer and it could come back. And I'm just like, I'm not coming back. Like, at this point, the treatment alone is killing me. There's no cancer in
Mm,
my body. You
yeah.
know, I'm losing white blood cells here. You know, I'm feeling like I'm at at death's door. You know,
Right.
I'm not going out like this. And I'll never forget my hematologist said to me, well, Miss Jones, what is it that you want? And I said, well, ma'am, I want to live, you know? And she said, well, I think you're expecting a miracle that you're not going to get if you don't do these treatments.
Oh, jeez. Wow.
So, needless to say, I'm a walking miracle. And
Yeah.
to this day, she is like amazed, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that I have no issues with that are cancer related,
Yeah.
um, no signs or, you know, symptoms that it's returned. So I'm super thankful for that. But one thing I feel like God used me to do was allow people to understand that it's okay to be an advocate for your own health.
Absolutely.
You have to recognize how your body feels and use that as your gauge. You know,
Right.
sometimes, a lot of times, not to say or negate, you know, the training that your doctors may have, but they don't always personalize their training or their treatments. You know what I mean? Everybody's different. So what someone else may have experienced, you may not experience. And, case in point with me, they told me, oh, well, all of these people, what we've noticed in our research is these people were affected this way, but I wasn't, you know. So that just goes to show you sometimes you just really have to be an advocate for yourself. It's
That's
okay to speak up. It's okay to say no.
right.
Ultimately, they have to serve you in whatever decision that you make, and I'm not saying that, to go out and, deny treatment in any which case or form,
Right.
but, just do your research, do your due diligence
Yep.
before you just go head first into any direction.
Yep.
Make sure that you make yourself aware as to what you need to do or what you can do outside of whatever treatments or suggestions that they're giving. So
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You don't know me very well, so and if anybody hasn't watched the show, when I suffered from multiple food allergies, I couldn't get any answers. Nobody knew what the heck was going on with me. So I went everywhere, Shawan. Oh my goodness, all kinds of practitioners, doctors, alternative medicine, you name it. I finally did, and I don't recommend it, but I diagnosed myself. I finally figured out this is an allergy. What's going on? And then from there, I went for the traditional allergy testing, and I was allergic to everything. Everything was coming up positive. You name it, eggs, nuts, whatever. I can't even think of them all. Oats, soy, the big ones, milk, all that. They were all fours. Like that's almost the highest. But then I did, like I went to a chiropractor. I did advanced nutrition response testing, and that told me what I couldn't eat. But like I said in the beginning of the show, the biggest thing that was missing for me was recipes. Now I can't eat anything. Like it was like that was more advanced nutrition response testing was exactly what it sounds like. It gave you a little bit more than what the doctors were telling you with a blood test. I think an IG something test. I forget what it's called. It gave me a little bit more knowledge of what my body was reacting to. But now I'm like, well, what do I eat? I'd leave the office. I'm like, what the heck do I eat? And she'd be like, oh, well, here's a recipe for crustless quiche. I'm like, can't live on that. Every time I left the office, that's what she'd give me. I was on supplements. I was on standard process. Those are helping tremendously. But I still needed recipes. I needed something to eat. Everything. I was allergic to everything. So I get the whole being your own advocate because I had to become one myself. Nobody was helping me. I went to a nutritionist. They tried to put me on Boost Breeze and like a shake, but they were just more concerned with the nutrients I was getting. If you're getting enough carbs, enough protein. I just wanted to stay alive. Like I looked at that, it had chemicals in it. The Boost had chemicals in anything with chemicals. I was so sensitive, I couldn't ingest it. I'd go right into anaphylactic shock. It had to be wholesome food. So the thing that finally did help me, like I said, being my own advocate, I went back to school, School of Integrative Nutrition, but then I also took a raw food class at the same time. That was the biggest help. Just like learning what I could eat for whole foods and resetting my body. That was the biggest help.
Wow.
So yeah, just to give you a little perspective, of what I've gone through. I get like being your own advocate.
Yeah.
They don't, I'm not downgrading doctors or everything, but like you said, your own body. Start to take notes, journal it, journal what foods you're eating that are aggravating you, journal what pains you're having after you eat those foods, journal anything, even products you use if you have some sort of reaction with products. Helping in autoimmune illnesses and Lyme disease community, lots of things aggravate them. Those are all signs. Things that aggravate them are like light. I don't know if this happens in lupus too. They're very similar illnesses, but light, they have sensitivity to light, they have sensitivity to sound, they have sensitivity to even cell towers. So if you have sensitivity to some of these things, start to jot it down. So when you do have to go to a doctor, whether it's Western medicine or herbalist or whoever, you've got it all written down. At least they've got something besides like, oh, this is in the back of my head. Well, I think this bothers me. I think No, write it down. What if it's your laundry detergent, if it's your shampoo, you start to feel like garbage after you use something. Keep it all, and if you can't write it down, because I was guilty of this, and of course, when I went through this, they didn't have beautiful cell phones like they have now. Record it, record
Right.
it. Take a picture of your food, and then record how you feel after. Um, Whatever, record. Just you can just say it in your phone. I felt like garbage today after I washed my laundry and I don't feel good. I don't know, whatever, you know. So back up a little bit. Tell us when you started having the joint pain. How old were you?
Oh, wow. The joint pain literally started like days, I would say like maybe a week after my 40th birthday.
Wow, so you're much older. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It didn't hit me until I was older. At the time, I worked for the post office, so I was doing a lot. Some
Yep.
days I worked 7 days a week.
Yep.
I would leave work, take my daughter to work, come back to work, pick her up from work, go home. Like I was doing a lot. I
Right.
didn't really sleep. I didn't get proper sleep, proper rest.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was stressed, you
Yep.
know, and all of that, prompted again bad food choices. You pick
Yep.
up stuff that you think is convenient. Oh, well, I'll just pick this up on the way home, or, I'll stop at the drive-through and get this, those little things. And that all just kind of became an onset. Unfortunately, during that time as well, there was so much going on. My oldest daughter graduated from high school. Um, she had her prom June the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
My birthday was June the 6th. She
Okay.
graduated on June the 8th. And then my mom passed on June the 9th.
Oh my goodness.
So
Wow.
that was like the roughest week of my
Yeah.
life. Um, And like I said, afterwards, it was like my body just went through a shutdown.
Yeah.
Like I would go to work, I could barely walk. I couldn't lift a 5-pound bag of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It was just difficult. And the people at my job, they were looking at me all funny, like, oh, she's faking. She's faking. And I'm like, no, I'm really not. Like, I can't walk.
Right.
I couldn't even really perform my job because I was a counter clerk. We had these metal cash trays. I couldn't even pick mine up.
Oh
That's
wow.
how bad it was. So eventually I had to leave the job, but it just progressed from there. But when I was actually diagnosed, my numbers were through the roof. They've never seen numbers that high. It
Wow.
was like over 200 or something like that. And the minimum numbers are like in the 60s, and I'm at 200.
Mm-hmm.
So my body was completely inflamed. Everything.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, the pain was excruciating. It was excruciating.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so with medications and things like that, it suppressed a lot of the issue. But again, since that time, I've really done a lot of research. And granted, some of these medications they do help, but they suppress the issue. They
Right.
don't necessarily eradicate the issue you know
Right.
and I'm at that point now. I need to get rid of it. I need to eradicate it.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with it at all you know
Right.
so honestly, I have been making some strides, finding different foods that I know that I can still enjoy that won't trigger
Right.
a flare up or things of that nature. When I do cheat, I pay for it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
pay for it. But it lets me realize too what I'm doing wrong. I can't eat a lot of meat um,
Mm-hmm.
unless it's grass fed
Yeah.
or, organic. If I eat too much of it, it's almost like the acidity of it causes havoc in my body. So I
Right.
just do it. Um, Eating lots of greens and leafy vegetables. That works great for me. I
It's
mean,
just,
great. Um, so
yeah,
I'm definitely an advocate for that, as well as fruits. I love all of these different things. And one thing I've noticed, the biggest thing that people always say is it's hard to eat healthy because it's so expensive. And
right,
that is true. That is true to a degree.
right,
But there are so many ways and so many different options now that people can take control of their lives. They've come up with so many different alternatives. Even I interviewed a guest one time. She has tower gardens where she grows her own fruits and vegetables right in her house with no
yep,
soil.
right,
That's an opportune way for anyone to be able to have their own produce and their own vegetables without any type of chemicals because you're growing it yourself, you
right.
know. Um, and even there are so many different food markets. I wouldn't say food markets, but like I know
Farmers market,
we have in North Carolina, like they have like a lot of farmers that
yep,
sell their wares, at farmers markets and things of that nature. They are really good places to get fresh, inexpensive fruit or inexpensive foods to really help you on your journey. So, I don't necessarily say don't go to the grocery store at all, but just do your research, do your due diligence, because there are other options out there, that can help and assist you.
And the one thing I noticed now, just to give you more perspective on me, I was a junk food junkie growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Loved sugar. I had to have my frosted flakes in the morning, had to have sugar on my Cheerios with no milk. And even as I got older, I wanted to eat breakfast with sugar.
Yeah.
Mama couldn't control me anymore, in my older years. And I'd buy like chocolate chip cookies, have that for breakfast. I'd buy like Entenmann's, have that for breakfast. It was sugar, sugar, sugar. But one thing I realized when I started to shift and pivot my diet, when you do start to eat healthier, you're not going to crave all the junk anymore because
Right.
you're satisfying what your body really needs.
Right.
So yes, you think it's more expensive, but in the long run, it probably evens out. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it just depends on what you're eating. But that's what I noticed. Like once I was satisfying what my body really needed, wasn't craving the junk food, especially with sugar. If you get
Mhm.
the right sugars in your body, like your fruits, some vegetables, whether it's onions, carrots, sweet potatoes, that also can help curb the sugar craving. More greens helps curb your sugar craving. So by balancing that out, or even eating a protein with a carb, sometimes that's helpful too, because it
Mhm.
balances it out. That's, diabetics need to do that.
Right.
So that can be helpful. It just depends on your own body. So when I started doing that, I wasn't craving as much junk. It's not like, oh my God, I need to have Entenmann's Danishes for breakfast. I don't do that anymore.
Right.
Um, and I'll cheat once in a while, like you said. I'm human, but I'm not craving that as much. And I do find like even in the winter, it's a little more challenging to
Mhm.
eat as much fruit because it's colder out. You know what I mean? Even in North Carolina, it still gets cold here. So yeah, so that's what I've found. So did you find that once you started satisfying your what you really should be eating, you're not spending as much because you're not buying chips, you're not buying ice cream,
Right. And what I noticed too, like you, I used to crave sweets all the time too, or just overindulge in McDonald's French fries and things like that, Um, but I noticed too, even, once I was coming out of the cancer, there was just my appetite totally changed, because for so long I really couldn't eat. So I had to adopt a whole new different eating system. And a lot
Yeah,
of the things that I enjoyed before, I just can't eat now.
yeah,
Um, it just doesn't agree with me at all.
yeah,
So, I mean, in my situation, that kind of helped too, to even curb a lot of those cravings because it just doesn't agree with me anymore. And
right.
so, yeah, it has changed, the way that I eat, how I eat, what I consider eating now. because I do have to be mindful of everything. Dairy is not my friend.
No,
It is not
nobody's trying.
my friend.
Yeah.
So I can't indulge in those things that require heavy dairy. Now, am I completely off it? No, but I've learned different ways to tailor it so
Mm,
that it doesn't, affect me as heavily.
right.
I don't drink regular milk anymore. I'll drink almond milk.
Yeah, me
Um,
too.
yeah, that's all that I buy now. And I love it. Like, it's really
Yeah.
not different at all to me. Like, I
No.
love it, you
Yeah.
know. And instead of like, if I do eggs, I'll do like organic brown cage-free eggs. But I may only do it once or twice a week. I
Yeah.
can't do eggs like I used to every day. I'd wake up and make some eggs with some toast or something. Can't do it.
Do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I have to learn how to do things sparingly.
Right.
I can still indulge in it sometimes,
Yeah.
but I can't be excessive with it.
Yeah. And just to give the audience a little perspective, people with lupus or autoimmune issues, Lyme disease, a lot of the things you're naming are the aggravators.
Yeah.
They will trigger, like you were saying, inflammation in the body, which triggers pain. Just that simple.
Mhm.
For me, dairy triggers congestion. I get
Yeah.
congested with dairy. So that's a tip right now. If you are getting this virus going around, get rid of the dairy. Stop eating the I know it's the holidays and everybody's got cheese and crackers out. But the dairy is going to aggravate it big time. Sugar is going to aggravate it, or like gluten or wheat type products. Those all are processed foods. Those will all aggravate congestion. But yeah, like you said, and then like the red meats, a lot of people in the Lyme disease community are allergic to red meat. Can't have it all. When I started with food allergies, like you said, I couldn't have anything that wasn't organic. I couldn't even
Mm.
follow it. I remember one day I went to Shaw's. You probably heard of Shaw's because you were in the Massachusetts. Got some hamburger. I couldn't swallow it because it wasn't organic. It had to be organic. If I was gonna eat meat, it had to be organic. I'm better now. I can eat meat that's not organic. I don't eat a lot of it, but now I can ingest it. I'm okay. But
Right.
then, oh no, I took 2 bites. I was like, I can't even swallow this. Like it just, I would have went into anaphylactic shock if I finished it. It was that bad. It just, my body didn't want to process that garbage, I guess you could say, not good for you. So just to give people a perspective, that's what happens. Some of these things are just very hard for the body to process and digest. So when you're ill, it's all the harder. Your body just can't do it. So a lot of people with autoimmune get more inflammation, can't process it, and results in pain. Like you say, you paid for it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. There's no other way to put it. It results in pain, joint pain.
Yeah.
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 Mhm. And sometimes the gut too, get all bloated. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So how long did you get diagnosed with the rheumatoid arthritis from the time you got diagnosed with the cancer? How long was that?
That was 4 years.
You had 4 years.
Yeah.
And that's another common thing that happens in the Lyme disease community. They get Lyme disease and then they get cancer. And
Yeah.
you hit the nail right on the head because you're eating acidic foods. When
Mm-hmm.
the body gets acidic from stress, you
Yeah.
know, and then also acidic foods. So
Right.
that's another common thing. I've seen it time and time again. They've got Lyme disease and now all of a sudden they have cancer they've got to deal with because
Yeah.
the body got acidic. It's already acidic from the Lyme disease or an autoimmune issue like lupus. And then, so now you can get other things. So if you know you've got something, you've got to get your body more alkaline, which means eating more, like you said, more leafy greens, GREENS, low glycemic fruits, your berries, like blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, that kind of thing. And just kind of get rid of the processed foods and then, too many sugars.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah. So
Definitely
that
helps.
was 4 years. Yeah. And you said your family was support. So actually, let me ask you this. When you got the cancer, what were some of the symptoms at first? Like you said you had a tumor in your nose. Like what was going on? How did you
What,
figure all that out?
well, what actually happened, because I had moved to North Carolina in September of 2020, the year before, right? So prior to me moving from Virginia to North Carolina, I noticed I had like this ear, like I could feel fluid in my ear.
Interesting.
And I kept going to, all these doctors, and they were like, oh, okay. I remember going to like a patient first, and they were like, oh, well, we're going to give you an antibiotic. It's going to help dry up the fluid. You'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So I took the antibiotic, nothing happened. So when I moved, it progressed. And then I started noticing I was having nosebleeds. And
Ah,
I've never had nosebleeds. And I'm like, what is going on? It just seemed like every time it would be a little warm, my nose would just completely start running, or it would get really, really stopped up and then just start bleeding. And that was the only way that I could get like relief to
mm,
unclog my nose. And it was like clots just coming out. And I'm like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. So I went to the doctor again. They were like, oh, well, Miss Jones, you have allergies. And I said, no, I don't. I don't have like, I don't have allergies. I've never had allergies. Oh, well, Miss Jones, I said, look, Virginia is known for pollen allergies and things of that nature. I've been there all my life. I've never had it. You know,
mm,
he's like, well, no, North Carolina is the worst, and da 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 da, and it's worse here. And I'm like, sir, I don't think that's what it is, though. He said, well, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you some Zyrtec and something else they wanted to prescribe. He said, I need you to put it in your nose every day. Well, I started doing that, but then it got to the point where I couldn't get anything passed at all up here. Like
oh, wow.
you could just tell it was completely stopped up. So by February of 2021, they were like, okay, well, we're going to get you to an ear, nose, and throat doctor. So I go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. They're like, oh, well, Miss Jones, we could see the fluid in your ear. And I'm like, yeah, it's been there for months. Like, no one's paid attention. I said, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm feeling like this has something to do with my nose. Like, it's all connected. If something's messed up over here, it's affecting it over here. And so they ended up putting like a tube in my ear to drain the fluid out. So I had the surgery for that. Then they said, well, we noticed that there's something in your nose. We're going to do a biopsy. So they did a biopsy. Well, basically, they had me in the office, and they did like this X-ray almost, and I was not. I had to take the pain. Like, it was pain. They put this thing
Ooh,
all the way up your nose on both sides.
ouch. Yeah.
So he did the right side. Of course, the right side, it wouldn't go all the way up. So he took the video of it. Then he did the left side. So he showed me both videos, and he said, well, Miss Jones, this is your left nasal passage. This is what a normal nasal passage looks like. So you could see, the clear canal leading to the back of the throat. You'll see the opening in the back, right? On the right side, you couldn't see any of that. It was just fatty tissue. That's
Okay.
it. So he said, we're going to definitely have to do a biopsy. And once they did the biopsy, that's when they noticed it was cancer. But
Wow.
because it was so far back in my nasal passage, it was close to to the back of my brain.
Oh,
They
wow.
could not, operate and take it out. So I had to go through the chemo in order to reduce it and shrink it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know.
So
When you said it was in your nose, I'm like, okay, you probably felt it, but so it was further up. Okay.
yeah.
And you're
So,
the first person I've ever met that's had cancer in the nostril area. Never.
man, that was the first for me too. Like, I had never heard
Oh
of
my
that.
goodness. No,
And the
meaning.
thing of it is, in my family, unfortunately, my maternal grandmother, she is a breast cancer survivor. She had a mastectomy. My mom's
Mhm.
sister had a mastectomy as well. Now, my mom didn't have cancer or anything, no one else in my immediate family. But for me to get that, it was just like, where did this come from? Like,
Right,
it was just so random. Um,
right.
but there again, it was all a part of, the process. It was a part of the journey that God had me on. And, I've realized even with the health concerns, with the trauma that I've experienced, God assured me that it isn't because I've done anything wrong. It's almost as if He's using me to be a vessel to help someone else. So that's
Absolutely.
what I'm here to do.
And you're doing it by being on this show, your own show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the holidays. Like we just went through Thanksgiving. Tell everybody how you handled that and now how you're gonna handle like the upcoming holiday for Christmas. Like, if there's parties, family parties, whatever, how do you pivot? How do you handle that? Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I have a lot of groups from the Lyme disease community on my Facebook page. I see what they go through. So tell us, what do you do to help give the audience some tips, I guess you could say, and what do you do to get through it and not want to pull the blanket over your head and just let it go away?
Yeah, some days it gets that way. It really does. It gets that way. Sometimes the pain will be so great, it's like I don't even want to get out the bed.
Mhm.
But the holidays this year wasn't bad. I really pushed myself through it. My kids are a lot older now. So unfortunately, because, the cancer wasn't that long ago, I hadn't really prepared a Thanksgiving dinner in over 3 years. So
Mm,
they were like, Mom, could you do Thanksgiving this year, please? So for them, I mustered up the strength this year to do it.
yeah,
And it turned out really well. Um,
good.
but again, because I made everything as I normally would, you know, um, it affected me more so than it affected them. Now,
Mhm.
one thing I've noticed with my kids too, because of a lot of the things that they've seen me go through, they're even much more mindful about their health and, taking care of their bodies.
Good.
So my son, he walks every day, sometimes literally, he will do like 10 miles a day. Just,
Wow.
yeah. Um, so
Gosh.
he's really, really big now on, just monitoring his health, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and my daughter, she does the same thing. She doesn't walk as much, but she's much more conscious now about what she's eating and maintaining her weight and her health and things of that nature. So, I think it, although it was somewhat like a traumatic experience for them to see me in such a state, it has now really triggered them to want to do better, to live
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
and to have healthier lives so that they don't incur some of the challenges that I had.
Yeah.
So they're really big on that. And my oldest daughter, she's a chef.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's she's big on her health and preparing healthier foods for herself now. So
Oh,
it's
that's awesome.
really good. Like everyone has kind of like incorporated their own kind of groove, so to speak. But during the holidays, during times now in which I do prepare larger meals, I've incorporated a lot of vegan meals that my kids actually enjoy. You know,
Right?
um, um, they love mac and cheese, right? And I'm like, well, how can I make it so that I can necessarily eat it without all the dairy? I
Right.
found a vegan recipe that is out of this world.
Okay, so give us some tips here because I haven't found. I think I found one mac and cheese. It was actually from Walmart, and I'd never go to Walmart, so I haven't bought it in like a few years. That was gluten free, but I don't think it was dairy. Was it dairy free? It might have been dairy free, but um, Yeah, it's really hard to find something decent. So what do you put in it?
I actually use vegan cheese,
Yeah.
and I get the gluten-free noodles. And if I'm not mistaken, because I haven't made it in a while. If I'm not mistaken, instead of using like a milk or something like that, because I can't really do milk, you
Right.
can use an almond milk or even a coconut milk to substitute in it. And it's almost like you make your cheese sauce like a bechamel sauce, where it's kind of like, melted down and
Hmm.
put it in, just fold it in with your noodles. It is so good. Like, it is so good. And it was so quick and easy to make. Like, the normal way just seems so much more challenging, but
Right.
this way it was so much easier. It tastes tremendously good. Um,
Right.
and like I said, for my kids to like it, they are picky eaters. So
Yeah.
so for them to be like, Mom, can you make some more vegan mac? And I'm like, what?
Mm.
They loved it. We also incorporate like a lot of different mushroom meals, things like that. I love mushrooms. Um,
Mm.
Actually, mushrooms are really good for bringing down, excuse me, bringing down inflammation as well. Um, and it really helped me during my cancer, believe it or not.
Well,
Um,
everybody, yeah.
yeah, mushrooms are really, really good for you. So yeah, I just, those little things that I try to do, I love it. Instead of
Yeah.
regular potatoes, I'll do like a mashed cauliflower.
Hmm.
That's really good.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I'm trying. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. I'm trying to find different things that I can incorporate, that I can still enjoy.
Yep.
That's like what I'm used to, but kind of alter it.
Right. Well, that's good that your daughter's a chef. I mean, I have the gift of discernment. So what I see right there is she's gonna use you so that that'll probably be her niche. I don't know what it is right now, but it'll probably be her niche to cook for people that do have some sort of issues.
Yeah,
You know, you're going through it. She can just vicariously do it through you,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not easy. One of the things I did, in the beginning, I didn't switch my potatoes. Like you can do like red potatoes or new potatoes or sweet potatoes
Hmm.
as a little bit of help so it's not contributing to inflammation. But I didn't have joint pain, so I could do potatoes.
Okay.
So, but I couldn't do milk. So I'm like, okay, I want mashed potatoes. What am I going to put in it? We are so programmed to put milk in our potatoes, right?
Yep.
I don't know. One day I just said, well, there's a little bit of water left at the bottom. I'm like, why don't I just mash them with the water?
Yep.
I don't need chicken broth. I don't need milk. It made mashed potatoes.
Yep.
It's like, we're so conditioned to do these crazy things. Like you think you have to, and I remember years ago, that was the thing. Like, oh, if you don't put milk, now you can do chicken broth or even a vegetable broth.
Right.
Well, at the time, like I told you, there was so many things that were aggravating me. I was trying to be as simple as possible. Didn't even want a broth in there because it's got stuff in it,
Right.
even the good stuff. So I was like, no, I want it to be simple. So yeah, there was like water at the bottom of the pan one day, and I'm like, let me just mash them. That's how I made my mashed potatoes. So if you're out there and you're like, I can't have mashed potatoes anymore, I don't like it with chicken broth, and I don't just mash them with some of the water that's left. Put some chives in there, and you've got beautiful mashed potatoes, salt and pepper. Don't have to go crazy. So you learn to pivot. You learn to just start trying other things. I say, live outside the box. I
Yeah.
have a full-time job right now answering phones for grocery stores. These people they make me shake my head. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta have my ice cream and I gotta have this and why don't they have it? Like, they're just so addicted to crap food. And I'm
True.
like, well, like even right now, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. People just don't get. Manufacturers have stopped making stuff. Things are harder to get. Not being delivered like it was. It's just
Right.
harder to get. It's not like the old days. Well, not too old, but a few years back, you could make a phone call and just say, it was all about the demand. Whatever the demand was would get in the stores, but right now it's not. It's
Correct.
just not. If you can't get it, you just can't get it. That's
Right.
just the way it is right now.
Right.
It's not like whatever the consumer wants, consumer's going to get. There's a lot going behind the scenes. And these people just crack me up. They just don't get it. Like, I want my ice cream. Why can't I have it? And they're
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, oh, like, and I'm sitting there saying, this is me thinking. I can't say it, but I'm like, think of it as divine intervention.
Yeah.
Make your own something
That's
better
true.
for you. Oh yeah, I had one yesterday. I want my peppermint ice cream. I'm not gonna get my peppermint ice cream for Christmas. I'm like, oh my God. Make your own. Learn to make
That's
your
true.
own.
That's true. That's
And it's a little bit of work, but try it. It's probably better for you. And
Yeah.
half of them that are calling, I don't know why, but they start telling me all their health problems. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I got this problem and that problem, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, that's just a little tidbit there on me. So, and last, let's see, we got about a little over 10 minutes left. So let's pivot a little bit. Tell us first about your TV show. How did that come about? Tell the viewers what the name of it is so they can find you. And then we'll talk about your book as well.
Sure. Well, the podcast is entitled Shaking Up the Algorithms. We're on YouTube live on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we do 3 times a week. And it actually started, I had created a audio podcast at first that I have on Spotify that's entitled Turning Trauma to Triumph. And that was basically going to be like my book.
Mhm.
I was going to give my personal testimony in different segments of the show and, kind of spin it to give people hope and inspiration. Well, I ended up having my co-host on my Now podcast on my show.
Yep.
And oh my gosh, the viewers and the listeners were like blowing up. I was like, man, we need to do something. And
Oh,
he
wow.
was like, well, why don't we do a podcast together? I've like always wanted to do one. And I'm like, okay, cool. So come December the 15th, it will be 1 year that we've been doing Shaking Up the Algorithms. I love it. I love the people that we interview, the interactions that we have. It just brings joy to my heart. The stories that we get to share with so many people and the information that they provide. I've learned a lot from a lot of the guests that we have. I've been inspired by a lot of the people that we've interviewed as well. Just the things that they've been through, what they do to help and serve in their communities, whether they're authors or things of that nature, what they do is so inspiring. And that's the whole mission of our show is to, yes, have humor because we laugh all the time.
Yeah.
Keep it real, because even as Christians, I feel like a lot of times people kind of like hide behind the veil a little bit, and they don't allow people to see that we are human just like everybody else. We have mistakes, we have flaws.
Right.
We're not perfect people, but we're striving to be perfect people. And that's a day-to-day process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. So we definitely highlight that in the show, and of course we add, the component of God's word in the show as well for those people that may not, be familiar with that or familiar with that, jargon, so to speak. So, we incorporate that and we just love on people, no matter where they are, what age or stage, we just love on them. And I love it. I love the show. Like I said, my book, that definitely came kind of like in between as well. Like I said, after the cancer, I was in a really traumatic relationship as well.
Okay.
that was emotionally abusive.
Oh no.
And, afterwards, like I said, I had been for years, I've been saying I was going to write a book, but it made me realize that a lot of unresolved issues from my past were like really stemming to the forefront. And I
Mm.
was like, I've got to tackle this. Like, I've got to tell it, you know. I had been holding it in for such a long time. And it was almost as if God just gave me exactly what to say. I literally wrote like 10 chapters in 2 months.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was just coming out like a flood, you know. And I would go back and I would read it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is good. Like, I want to read more of this myself. I can't believe I wrote it.
Right.
But I'm so proud of this book, and it's the first of a series
Okay.
titled God, Why Me? There we
Okay.
go.
Yep.
God, Why Me? How I Survived Life's Trials with Grace, Music, and Life-Changing Affirmations. This is volume 1, working on volume 2 now,
Hmm.
so that I can have that out. But it highlights a lot of my childhood up into my early adulthood, and some of the challenges I've had to face being a parent, growing into my adulthood, getting through my teenage years. I really didn't have outlets. So writing became my outlet where I wasn't able to speak or say things, to get it out. I
Mm.
would run to a journal.
Uh,
I would just write it. It got to the point where I would literally say in my journal everything that I would have said in a particular situation.
oh
Um,
wow.
so it was like it started off like conversations. Then it was, I would just be telling my day or how I felt that day and what happened at school or what happened at home and
Hmm.
those type of things. And then it became more poetic. It
Yep.
became, more of a literary work. But of course, that just came from years and years of writing, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I would always read. Reading was like an escape for me.
Okay.
So, you know, my imagination really grew from the different books that I've read, the different places in the book that it took me to. I've always enjoyed stories that made you feel like you were there.
Yep.
So that's kind of like my writing style. I literally take you on this journey with me through my life, and I vividly show you everything that I've endured. So it's very detailed. Um, it's there's some topics in there that may be sensitive or triggers for some people.
Yeah.
But even with that, I really wanted to paint the picture not all negative, but I think, like I said, God really put me in a place where he was able to show me even how other people treated me, even if it wasn't good. He helped me to understand the true meaning of why hurt people hurt people.
Mm.
And I had to almost dive into the shoes of my accusers and see and understand what they had endured. And it made me understand even more why they treated me the way that they did and to be able to forgive them for that.
Yeah.
So it
Dude.
was definitely a healing process writing this book. There were times that I just cried writing. I purged everything
Wow.
with this book. So I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I'm like I said, I saw it. So we just connected. So I saw the book and I started, I read what it was about and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to get this book. So I will be getting the book too. Our viewers out there, you should get this book too. And it's another book. Is it in paperback as well?
Yes, this book is in paperback. It's also
Yep.
in hardback and the Kindle version on Amazon as well. But right now, because I have it on my website, which is thelotusvision.com, If you go directly to the site, you can use the discount code Black Friday 23, and you can get
Yep.
the book for $10. So
Okay.
the book is on sale for $10. I will even autograph it to you and send it out myself. So
Okay. There you go. Yeah.
yes. But yeah, I'm running that special right now. And I also have another book that I'm doing pre-sales on right now. It is a children's book.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's entitled My Name is Jazzy. I Love Being Me. And it's
Oh,
a story of a little brown girl. And basically, what I wanted to do in this series, it kind of stems from my niece named Jasmine. And she's in the first grade. And I wanted to cater to that age range between kindergarten and second grade. It's such a pivotal age for our children. And just to kind of impart more self-esteem and self-confidence, because they're really at that age now where they're starting to notice the differences in other
yeah.
children,
Yep.
and just because everyone's different doesn't mean that you can't love yourself or you can't love that individual because they're different. So this book and the series that follows will talk about how Jazzy interacts with other kids in her class, how she loves who she is despite how she's different. She will meet other friends that are of other ethnicities and nationalities. So I really wanted to highlight that and, get kids to kind of love on each other more, and to, again, create that change at an early age.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we're going a little bit over, so tell us in the last minute or two how people can reach you.
Yes. Well, you can reach me on Facebook at Shawan Jones. That's my personal page. You can also reach me at thelotusvision.com, as well as Shaking Up the Algorithms on Facebook. On IG, my personal page is Phoenix to Rise, Rize. And you can also find the Lotus Vision page as well as Shaking Up the Algorithms. And on TikTok, my personal page is Author Lady 1111, 4 1s. And you can go to the Lotus Vision page as well as the SUTA, SUTA crew for Shaking Up the Algorithms. And we're there. Anything that we're posting, whether it's different shows, whether it's information regarding the book. For those of you that are aspiring to be an author, I also work with those individuals doing book coaching, and I do self-publishing as well. So I have
Okay.
a self-publishing company and a coaching company that I work with individuals so that they can cultivate their story as well. So yeah,
Awesome.
pretty busy.
Well, this has been amazing. I want to thank you for being on. This has been eye-opening in so many ways. So I appreciate you and coming on tonight and telling our viewers all your experiences. I look forward to reading the book. Look forward to staying connected and learning more
Yeah.
about you, all that you're doing, and just helping each other. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So, and then for our viewers, once again, I'm looking for more guests. Anybody who's overcoming an illness, going through an illness, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messenger. Just send in my name, Paula Denoncourt. Or you can text me 508-330-9665, and I'll get back to you because I do have a full-time job and I'm very busy, but I will get back to you. And also looking for sponsors for the show coming in the new year. So if you want to be a sponsor and get your business out there and advertise your business, we can get you as a sponsor as well. So I want to thank everybody for being on. And once again, go to the website and get your free Reversing Illness ebook and the 6-day immunity meal plan guide. Highly suggest you even get that because right now you need it. Highly suggest it. So thank you again, Shawan. This has been great. And we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.